It's your host, Hollie, and it's time for a little teaser talk. Before we jump into today's episode, quick roll call. Who's heading to Welcome to Rockville this year? If you guys see me running around doing interviews, come say hi. You guys have got to check this out.
Welcome to Rockville. Returns to Daytona International Speedway May 7th through 10th with Foo Fighters, My Chemical Romance, Guns N' Roses, and Bring Me the Horizon. Plus, Turnstile, Five Finger Death Punch, The Offspring, Breaking Benjamin, A Day to Remember, Godsmack, and so many more. Welcome to Rockville, May 7th through 10th. Passes on sale now for as low as $1 down at welcometorockville.com.
Pretty wicked lineup, am I right? I hope to see you there. Now let's get into today's episode. What is up, everyone? I am back with season, oh my gosh, what is this, season 9. I'm super excited to have this conversation because you guys have heard from me for a minute, but the band that we are going to be meeting with today, or really just the lead singer of the band that we're going to be with today, you guys haven't heard from them in a minute. So I'm super excited to dive into this conversation. Welcome, Ryan with Tokyo Rose. How are you doing?
Hey, Hollie Nicole, good to see you. It's, it's been a minute, as you said, so it's cool to chat.
Yes, I am very much looking forward to this conversation. And, as far as it being a minute, it's actually been, over a decade since Tokyo Rose has released new music, right?
That's right.
So you guys
It's
recently...
been close to almost 20 years, actually.
Wow. So, you released your first song when you were, 2, right? Or something like that?
That's right, basically.
Something like this. Well, you guys just made a splash in 2026 with your new single, Something Sweeter. What sparked that decision to get back into writing after all of these years?
Yeah, we kind of dipped our toe back in the water in 24. We did a reunion show after being prompted by our good friend, John Damiano. He's the drummer and kind of the brains behind the Emo Night Karaoke outfit that kind of tours all over the States and most recently in the UK, playing a bunch of our favorite songs from our favorite bands in the 2000s. He prompted us to kind of do a reunion show, which turned into kind of a reunion weekend of sold out shows. And then, through that, we did a few more kind of weekend runs and long weekend things across the country with other friends who have reunited. And, through that process of practicing and, kind of shaking the dust off the old stuff, we had some, jams and some stuff that I like to say we pulled out of the vault and kind of, dusted off and remixed and rearranged. And it just felt right to do something new.
So I love that, a little reunion show turned into this spiral of Guess Who's Back.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through that, how the first song came together and what kind of inspired it?
Yeah. So, so Tokyo Rose has had a history of kind of a revolving door of members. We kind of started when we were all in different years in college and coming out of school and stuff. So we had different tours where the guitar player or the drummer couldn't continue on. So we'd have to bring some other friends in. And throughout the years, our buddy Sean Fichtner, who plays drums with us again, and our buddy Matt Fleischman, who plays guitar with us again, there were two guys that, can shred their instruments, two guys that are really fun to hang out with and super creative in the writing process. So when we got together to do these reunion shows and then these little stints out west and in the Midwest, we, had rehearsals and would just jam, just really enjoy playing together and hanging out, because gone are the times, at least in our lives, because we're, 20 years later, gone are the times when we just hang out in the house, and in the basement and write songs. So when we got together, we made the, as good use of the time as we could. And, I had the kind of skeleton of a song. I wrote about kind of a failed relationship, as all good emo songs are, good breakup songs. And, one thing led to another. Sean laid down a groove. Chris, our bass player, is, one of the most talented bass players in the scene today and then as well. He laid down a bass groove, and then Matt and I just kind of started noodling And then I started to sing this melody that I had over, I want to say 15, 16 years ago, that, you know, we just kind of locked in the vault when the band decided to take our indefinite hiatus.
That is awesome. So I'm curious because obviously a lot has changed since, you know, in 20 years. How does writing music now compared to the early 2000s when you guys were first building Tokyo Rose in New Jersey and that New Jersey scene?
That's right. I mean, like, we used to get together, you know, we'd practice at least once a week, probably twice or three times a week. We met at Rutgers University, where, you know, all the good bands kind of came from, and had basements where they put on shows. So I was living, you know, off campus with, I think, 7 other roommates and an ex-girlfriend at the time. And we had a basement. So, you know, we had our drum set and we had different equipment down there. We would just go and hang out, you know. We'd, you know, grab a sixer or something and just hang out in the basement and kick around some ideas. Now we all live in different places, not too far from each other, but our bass player Chris and guitar player Matt live in Eastern Pennsylvania. And then myself and Sean, our drummer, we live in Northern Jersey. So, you know, we get together like once a month or something. And, you know, through the advances in technology, you know, we'll lay stuff down at home, like on GarageBand or something. And then, you know, put it in the cloud somewhere, Dropbox, Google Drive, something like that, and just kick ideas back and forth. And, you know, thankfully with technology becoming so good and accessible, we've been able to kind of just kick ideas back and forth until it becomes a full song.
I love that. And, you know, we were kind of chatting before we hit record on today's episode. And, you know, I was saying that East Coast is like one of my favorite places, like a special place in my heart. Cause I feel like that kind of unlocked where I got exposed to like really good live music, like local scene, if you will. And then we're chatting about like the whole, like friends with CKY and how like they're also kind of influential to you guys. I feel like anybody that grew up in that era, there's some kind of influence. For sure. I don't know about you, but like me and my friends, we were like wannabe jackass people. We were definitely not as cool, far from as cool as them. But yeah, man, those were the days.
Those were the days, you know, just seeing those guys. I mean, like friends of mine, you know, in high school, we'd go to the local ShopRite, which is kind of like a chain of grocery stores out here, and we'd like fill up grocery carts with groceries and stuff, and then like kind of plant them around the store for, you know, the workers who were also our friends to have to like restock, just playing pranks. And then, you know, we get our hands on a shopping cart outside and like see how fast we could push each other down the hill or whatever. But then, you know, seeing Jackass like make that like canon for like growing up in like the kind of East Coast, you know, Northeast area, it was like, oh yeah, like we do this every weekend. Or, you know, some of us who play in bands, like, yeah, like we want to be like CKY, we want to be like, you know, Andrew WK, we want to be like, you know, whoever we see on the MTV2s and the MTVUs, you know.
I know that. I think all the MTVs, like RIP MTV, those are like back in the days. I think that's what kind of stands out, like that nostalgia. Where like I was saying, like we were wannabe jackasses. We like, you know, this is before like iPhones had like even before iPhones even existed. But we had my friend's big camera. It wasn't like a studio camera, but it was like very like the VHS, like you pop it in, and I'm like, oh my god, crazy nostalgia unlocked for sure. And, you know, going back, you know, you guys had hit like heavy legs of touring. You guys played at Warped Tour back in 2004, which is so crazy. I feel like everything's making a full circle because Warped was back last year, you know, as far as like the three stops that they had. And then, of course, they're rolling out more this year. What's your thoughts on how everything's kind of coming back and seeing those things come back into, I guess, existence?
It's pretty amazing. I mean, to think that anything that we did, you know, in our 20s, it's kind of had a comeback and a nostalgia. You know, I distinctly remember, you know, both of my parents come from large Filipino families. And, you know, I have some uncles and aunts who are like not much older than me because they come from such a large family. And like seeing like their styles come back around, I want to say, you know, when I'm coming of age in the 90s, like bell bottoms and flare pants and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, I never thought that would come back. It's like, well, that's how I feel now. Like, I never thought emo would come back. I never thought that pop punk that, that we all listened to, on the small stage at Warped Tour. Like, I go back to like Warped Tour 95 and I'm like seeing Blink 182 for the first time on this little stage that's on the back of a truck, right? And they're playing the same stage as MXPX and No Use for a Name, and then getting to play in 2004 on a similar stage, actually a stage that we had to take part of it in our trailer and then build it the next day. It's like Mr. Lyman, I call him, because he was just the brains of bringing those two cultures together, like skate culture, punk culture, and then zine culture, like all of that coming together with Warped Tour. Like, to see that come back around, and it gives me chills, because like those were our formative years, and then at the same time, those were kind of like ecosystems that were self-sustainable. Like, kids would come to shows, they would write zines about the shows, which would then like tell the world about different bands, right? And then like you mentioned the cameras like that the Jackass guys had, like, because you'd go out with your friends and video record them skateboarding, and then like you need music for the skate videos, so you'd put all the punk songs on there, and it was like it was like this universe, like you think of like the multiverse, or like Marvel and stuff, like where everybody like took care of each other, and everybody like had a part contributing to this subculture that eventually became like mainstream culture. And now that it's back, it's like, oh, like we're kind of classic rock now, but at the same time, like it just brings all the feels.
That is awesome. It really does. So are there any tour memories from those days that still stick with you today?
Totally. I mean, those Warp days, we toured with some of the bands like in and out of Warped, like our friends in a band called Days Like These, our friends in a band called Over It. We'd all meet up at Warped Tour in the morning, we'd all build the stage, and then we'd play it, and then we'd all like help each other sell merch during the day. And like we were in the kind of tier of bands that didn't have a tour bus. So we would like all pile into the van, like drive 8 to 10 hours to the next show, build the stage, build the merch tents, hustle all day. Like, you're playing, and when you're not playing, you're like trying to sell CDs. You're walking around with a Sony Discman and headphones. You're like, hey, you want to check out my band? We're playing at like 1:30 on the Kevin Says stage. And it's just, it's amazing to get to be a part of that fabric, right? And then tell the story, and then see Mr. Lyman and the people at Vans and Ernie Ball and everybody kind of bring it back. It's so cool, because I know that like other kids like us now, 20 years later, are getting that chance to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And so many bands were discovered on the stages of Warped Tour, right? Like that was like a big wave getting your music exposed. And it still happens even today, because I know that we have a lot of different outlets that we can consume music on: YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud. Oh, there's all these different methods. Of course, now we have sound bites like on Reels and such. But there's just something different that connects people during live music, and I think it's still a critical way of being discovered today.
100%. So, I mean, yeah, especially with Warped Tour being how it used to be. There was like the 2, maybe 3 big stages, and then all the little stages in between. Like you're going to see NoFX, but then you hear this little band called like the Early November playing the stage in between. And then another band like Pennywise, and then like Tokyo Rose playing right after them. It's like, where else do you get that opportunity?
Yeah, exactly. Did you get a chance to hit any of the Warped Tours last year?
Sadly, no. I mean, as I was sharing before, like I've got a almost 10-year-old that like, I'm kind of the chauffeur. Awesome. I got to take him to baseball practice. I got to take him to flag football practice. I got to take him to drums lessons. So
look at us all grown up and responsible.
We try.
I hit the Orlando one, and I will say this: like I think that might have been one of the defining moments where I'm like, damn, I'm getting old. Like I was such a princess. Like I was like stayed indoors most of the time. I would just bench and pop out whenever I would want to see a band, because of course, like with media access and stuff, it was a lot different than back in the day whenever we were, running across, it feels like miles. I know I'm being a little dramatic, but so many stages back and forth.
That's right.
I was like, yeah, I consumed a lot of ibuprofen that weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So your album, The New American Saint, has remained a fan favorite forever, if you will. And it's getting a 20th anniversary remastered deluxe edition. What made you guys revisit that record now?
Yeah, that album for us was kind of our first and only opportunity to make kind of a concept album. We have bands, throughout the ages who have done kind of a multi-record album, and we didn't have that in us, but we wanted to tell kind of a story that was woven, from song to song about, heartbreak and loss and support and the people who kept us going. So when we wrote that album almost 21 years ago now, it's like we just made it a love letter. And when we were approached in towards the end of 2024 about putting out new music, we said, hey, like, we just kind of got back together for these shows, we're having fun. If we want the world to kind of know Tokyo Rose by anything, we still, like, New American Saint was kind of our calling card, if you will. And they said, well, why don't we put that out? Why don't we do a remaster? Because we never put it out on vinyl. Why don't we do a remaster of it? And then we'll tag on a couple songs, newer songs that maybe were part of that album, but, like, got left on the cutting room floor. And so we were able to do that. We were able to dig up the masters and find the masters for the two songs that were not on the American release. They got released in Europe and in Japan, I believe. So we put them all together into kind of one package, and it still makes sense because they were part of the original kind of story. They were kind of like left out just for kind of cohesiveness sake. And so to put them all back together, it was kind of like, wow, we have the full picture now. And looking back, it's like those are, all those memories, all those stories that we told are still relevant today. So we thought, why don't we do that first?
That's awesome. Tokyo Rose stepped away after The Promise and Compromise. What was that, in 2007? When you guys reunited and started connecting musically, I know we kind of touched on this at the beginning of the episode, but what did that first moment of playing together feel like?
I think it was a little bit of anxiety, thinking like, hey, is this going to work now that we're this much older? Or is it going to just kind of be like riding a bike? And thankfully it was like riding a bike, an electric bike. Like, it went together so well. The guys all kept in shape, like in terms of their playability. Some of us, myself included, kind of put on a little daddy weight. But then, but it all worked out for the betterment, I think. And then, as you'll hear in the new music that's coming out this year and that came out with Something Sweeter, we play really, really well together. And it's a whole lot of fun to just write new music together, but also like play the old kind of quote unquote hits.
I love it. Now, this is teaser talk. So, of course, we got to share some teasers with the fans. With the new single out, and of course, it seems like plans to write, record, and perform, again, it seems like. What does the new chapter of Tokyo Rose look like moving forward, and what can we expect in 2026?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I think we're trying to piece that together. So the new music, it's some of the best music that we've ever written, with the same kind of emotion, the same kind of like raw expressiveness that you expect from Tokyo Rose, like especially those who go back to the New American Saint album. The production also is the best it's ever sounded. We've worked with Fred Mascherino from Taking Back Sunday, The Color Fred, Terrible Things, notoriety and fame. He opened a studio in Eastern Pennsylvania called Diver Down Studios with his good friend Steve Angelo, who's a master technician as well in the studio. So these songs sound the best that we've ever sounded. And we're writing from a perspective where, I talked about emo songs being the best breakup songs. These songs are more of like, we broke up as a band, and we're getting back together because it's undeniable the connection that we have. It's undeniable the connection that we have with our fans, and the energy that gives us. And so we're gonna, continue to ride that wave as long as people ask us to come out and play. As long as people come out, and ask us to play new music. That's what's gonna fuel it.
Well, that is super exciting, and congratulations and welcome back to the world of music. I know you guys didn't go anywhere, but it's great to see you guys putting out some new music. And
Absolutely.
Ryan, I appreciate your time today. Before I let you go, where's the best place that listeners can tune in, especially those of us who have got to dust off our social media following? Where's the best way or best place for everyone to go to follow you guys on your journey?
Absolutely. So it's funny because we are quintessential MySpace era music.
Yeah, that's why I was like, dust off the social media.
Yeah, I can't help anybody with that anymore. But we do have an Instagram. We're Tokyo Rose NJ. We are on YouTube. We are on TikTok. We're reluctant TikTokers because we're at the kind of stage in life. We're like, it's not that entertaining to watch me brush my teeth. But, we're going to try to connect as much as we can over those platforms. We're all over streaming, Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify, and YouTube Music as well.
Absolutely. Well, very cool. Everyone listening, you guys make sure to go follow them if you are not already, and stay tuned. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys more around here in 2026. Thanks again, Ryan. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Hollie Nicole. Thank you, everybody else, for listening, and hope to see you soon.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Teaser Talk. Head over to teasertalk.com to subscribe so you don't miss out on another episode. Until next week, keep rocking.